How is everybody doing today? Looks like we may have one, maybe two people trying to get in. Give it a few minutes. I will also look at the chat box here. All right. So how's everybody doing today? I think Megan is on. Yes. Hello.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I thought my microphone was on, but it wasn't. I'm doing good. I have COVID, but other than that, I'm good.
Uh-oh. Yeah, sorry to hear about that. You got like the Delta, or is it just a regular?
I have no idea. I just got tested and it said I was positive, but it didn't say like what one.
Okay. Well, I do hope that you get feeling better. Um, And if there's anything I can do on my end to help that process, just let me know. Um, I'm not really sure how many people are going to be join us today. I'm teaching two sections of 1102 online. Um, the first section has nearly 20 students, and the other one has about 10. So I invited both sections to join. I realize some folks may be working, and they may also be in another class, which I did get an email from another student so that she was in another class. So maybe what I should do um, is poll both classes to see which time or what time would be better for more folks to join on a Tuesday or Thursday. I do have a in-person class that starts at 1, so anything between 1 and 2:30 would be sort of out for me on Tuesday and Thursday. Um, and I usually try to go to lunch about noon, so anything from 8 to noon would work, or anything maybe from 3 to 6 would work. I don't know what everybody's schedule is like, um, but that could be something that we can kind of taking consideration, because these things usually work out well if there's multiple people in here that have questions. And I realize this is just the second week, so there may not be a whole lot of questions going on. The basis of the tutorial session really is for you to come, ask your questions, get help where you need to get help. You don't have to necessarily stay the full 45 minutes to an hour. It's sort of one of those that you can kind of pop in and pop out once you get satisfied with your response. You can stay as long as you want, obviously, up until the time that the program is going to sort of kick us out because of the time limit. Otherwise, what I could also use it for is to sort of go over, overview of the week ahead. Um, so what I want to do here, since I think we may have another person coming on, I mean, if you do have any questions at this point, uh, please go ahead and you can use the chat box. You can voice them with your microphone. We can talk about any kind of questions up front, or if anybody needs any help with anything up front. If not, I'm probably just gonna go through, kind of lecture about what's to come for week 2. Maybe talk a little bit more about the exam 1 and essay 1. Um, so at this point, does anybody have any burning questions or issues from last week that we need to talk about now?
I have a question about my quiz.
Okay.
So, like the correct answer, I went and like read like my responses and the correct answers that were supposed to be correct. And I'm just a little confused about my grade, and I was wondering if maybe I would like send like what ones I got wrong or something to me, because I just don't know what ones I got wrong, because my answers pretty much said the same thing that the correct answers were.
I have to sort of go through and maybe pull that up individually. I mean, if you have something in particular, usually what I did with the quizzes, I gave an answer. So a lot of folks would, they may go on and on. You didn't necessarily have to write like paragraphs necessarily. Some folks were wanting to do paragraphs for each one. You didn't have to do that. A lot of the answers could be, as easy as just one word answers. Some could be a couple phrases, maybe a sentence, but you didn't really need to go too terribly long with a lot of the responses. I think really the longest response maybe would be summarizing the necklace story. But otherwise, what I tried to do was I tried to give partial credit if the answer that you provided was actually going in the right direction. If it was just totally wrong, then you didn't get, you might have got 5 points because each question was out of 10. So if you got a good bit of it and you're only missing maybe a part of it, you might got an 8, you might got a 6. If it was just totally wrong or you didn't answer it, you got a 0.
Yes,
So
sir.
do you have one in particular in mind that you know of?
Well, the thing is, like, I don't know what ones you marked off, because, like I said, I went and read your answers, and then I also looked back at my answers, and most of like all of my answers were pretty much the same as yours. Like, I know I got them right, but then I had like an 85 in the grade book, and I just don't know why.
Yeah,
Is
I
what
mean,
is
yeah, usually if you go through, it will give you like a green check if you got it right, or it give you sort of like an X if you got it wrong, or you won't get the full 10 points, so you get, partial credit. So I don't know if you're able to see that on your end. I can try. Let me see if I can try to pull it up here real quick.
I mean, I can't see anything on my end anymore, but I know like as soon as I turned it in, like I went through your answers and then my answers.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull yours up again.
Because I mean, the only one that I know I might have got like, somewhat kind of wrong was the first one, but then I don't know what other one I got wrong to make it an 85 or partially wrong.
Okay, yeah. If you don't mind me sharing this,
I don't mind.
okay. Let me we can work through it here. Let me go ahead and pull this up because I think I did find it. Do you see it? You see it on your end, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So number one, a lot of folks got these were sort of mixed out. Not everybody's number one is going to be number one. You're basically going to have the same questions, but your number one could be somebody's number 8. Amazement was really how the final revelation was. A lot of folks put, like you did, compassion, revelation, but really it was amazement because remember, she was amazed that our protagonist went through 10 years of hard labor, basically, and work, all for a fake diamond. So
Yes,
that
sir.
that that was sort of the reason with that one. And again, like I said, you could write a complete sentence if you wanted to. You didn't necessarily have to do too terribly much with it because again, everybody was timed. You only have 30 minutes to do these. So I kind of made my answer choices where it wouldn't take you so long um, to complete all 10 questions. And I also know that some folks are probably going to try to go back and use notes and books and text and all, and search on Wikipedia and Google and Spark Notes and all that stuff. Really, the whole deal with the 30 minutes is for everybody to sort of not do a lot of that because that's going to take a lot of time when you're trying to copy and paste the question and try to find Quizlet or whatever the case may be if you think it's going to be on there. Some might. Chances are there probably won't be. And, you know, if you're really digging through Spark Notes or Cliff Notes, you may have to read a couple pages to really come up with an answer. So that's the whole reason why I sort of made these short, sweet, and to the point. Because if you read the story, and the stories were really, really short, so you could read them multiple times, take your own notes, use the notes that I provided and stuff that I have in the videos, that you really shouldn't have to go out and look for outside sources to find your answers, because otherwise it's just going to eat up your time. And I think that's what was going on with some folks, because when I did get the quizzes back, they spent more than 30 minutes on it, and it sort of just shut them out. So just be wary of that. So that was sort of the one. You got 5 points. You got partial credits. And yes, it was his boss, but again, relation to. So you really needed to describe what a grade quiz profession was. He was a professor, and you know he was a chemist. So that's why you sort of got a little bit of yes, he was his boss and mentor, but you needed to go a little bit further than that.
Yes, sir.
You got the full credit there. You got full credit there. You got full credit there. You got full credit here. Some folks will, you know, they put the attic, which, you know, you possibly got partial credit, but really it was Western France. It says that in the story. So a lot of these really you should be able to find within the story. If you really read it carefully, maybe you needed to go back and read it. If you only read it once and moved on to the next story and read that once and then said, oh, okay, I got it. Not saying that you did, but you know, some folks they do that, or they wait until Saturday or Sunday to do a lot of this stuff, and they're in panic mode, and that's when they start going to Quizlet and a lot of these other places. Then they didn't take the time. That's why we give you a 7-day period to really absorb this stuff. Not that you have to, you know, spend all 7 days on it, but if you take a little bit of time each day, you'd probably absorb it a lot better, and your quiz grades would be should improve over time as well. A lot of folks put third person, and that's why I started sending out, if you got that email, I guess, over the weekend. If you remember, your textbook does have a list of a lot of literary terms and stuff. And this was really limited. It was third person limited point of view. So if you read that email that I put, there was 3 different types of third person. Some folks were just saying third person. Well, it's a little bit more than that. So that's why some students lost credit, because they didn't put limited in there. It's a little bit different than just saying third person. But you got that one right. That's good. The date, the month, and the year, most folks got that right. I did have a few people that put December down for whatever reason. I'm not really sure, but it does say this, particularly in the text, really that first page or so. You did well for number 9. So yes, I mean, you just got the partial credit. So
Yes, sir. The partial credit was just the one that I didn't get. Like, I didn't know what one I got partial credit on and, like, why. And that's all I wanted to know.
yeah, and keep in mind, I don't know if I said this last week, but because we're going to have so many quizzes, and we're going to have like discussion posts, and we're going to do like a creative activity during the 3rd week of each one of our units, I will drop sort of like your lowest one of those 3. Like if we get to the end, like November, and you just bombed quiz 4 or whatever for whatever reason, then I'm going to drop that one. Or let's say that we get to the end of November and you didn't do so well on a discussion post, then I will drop that one, because these little weekly grades all are, they're worth the same. So it doesn't really matter which one I drop. The only thing I can't drop is like a major exam, a major paper, a final exam. But these little things, I can drop at least one of them, and that will actually help everybody's grade out when we get toward the end of our semester.
Yes, sir.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But I have another question, and that's my last question. But I I didn't save like the short stories from last week, like I said, because I'd been sick and I just did what I had to do and just, you know, slept. So with the last stories, can I just find them just by looking them up?
Yes,
Okay, I was just making sure so that way I had them.
because that's basically what because our textbook, our e-textbook, is good for some things. It's not good for everything. I mean, there are some stories in there, but some of the stories that I have, I just, I've been going on Google and locate them that way. So as long as you know the author and the title, um, you'll be able to find it because that's how I did it.
Yes, sir.
Uh, the things that like I put up here, like as you can tell with page numbers, basically the page numbers are in your textbook. And, another way to use week 2 for an example, because I give you some additional stuff. Like here, I had the 2 stories. Um, I give you the page numbers again, but let's say that you forgot, hey, he's wanting us to look up about literary analysis and stuff, and you forgot the page numbers. You can easily probably copy and paste this into Google and come up with, something that will be close or related. And if you're ever in question, hey, is this a good handout I can read and use? Then just email me and let me give me the web link, and I will tell you. But I try to provide the page numbers for the stuff that you have basically in your e-text, which again is over here for those that are still having confusion with that. I know some folks, I think they used one of the hyperlinks in the syllabus, and that's fine. Um, but what was happening to that particular student was it gave them the web base. It just gave them like a table of contents and a lot of links. It was basically like a web page textbook. You could still use that, but if you're trying to find page numbers on a website, it's not going to be helpful. So that's why I would say I would use this one, because that's where you're going to find the page numbers that relate to the page numbers I have on the actual syllabus and in the weekly folders and that type stuff. Um, so just keep that in mind moving forward. The textbook is going to be up there for the remaining part of our semester. It's not going to go away on you. So you always have that, and it's like I said, being that it's free, it has its own limitations. But at least you don't have to go to the bookstore and fork out, like our old textbook when we actually had to buy one was nearly $130. So there's pros and cons in having the e-text, I guess. One pro is that you don't have to pay the price. A con, a lot of the stuff they have in there is not necessarily the greatest as it relates to the stories and stuff, because there's just not a lot. So week 2, right? Really, the big thing is we're reading Faulkner's A Rose for Emily, and we're looking at Chopin's Desiree Baby. I provide notes. Hopefully these prizzies or these slideshows are helpful. Again, what I would suggest is that you sort of read through the story, maybe take your own notes on it. And you can easily take your own notes by just downloading and printing out the story. You can write in the margins. It's called basically annotating the text. You've probably heard of that at some point and done it in other classes. That would be helpful, especially when we have these tutorial sessions. If there's just something going on in the story or the text that you don't understand that is puzzling, at least you have some notes on it. You can bring it up next time we do a tutorial session, or you can email me pretty much any time if you are running into any snags. The other thing is, please let me know if some of these hyperlinks don't work, because when I uploaded this, when I created this course back at the beginning of August, everything was working. So over time, we know, like any other type of deal on the web link may work on a Monday, but here it is when we start looking at it on a Friday, the web link goes down or whatever the case may be. So if you run into that, chances are somebody else is going to run into it. And I'm not going to know unless somebody tells me, because I'm going to just assume all these things are working. Especially if there's deadlines, if we got assignments that are due usually on every Sunday, you want to have working links. Otherwise, I would just suggest, like you did, Megan, if you know the title, copy and paste it, put it in Google, and see if you can find another link. Um, but for the most part, they should be working. Our discussion post, this is sort of our next assignment. And really, you have two questions that you want to answer. And here I do give a particular word amount, right? 125 words for each one of your questions. So after you read the two stories for this week, you're going to have to answer these two questions, 125 words. Make sure that you proofread, spell check, grammar check, whatever you need to do, check as it relates to your own answers. Because there again, it is an English course and that stuff matters. So make sure that stuff is up to par. But after you answer these two questions and you post your response, because it is a discussion post, you're going to need to find a classmate's post and comment on one of their two questions. You don't have to comment on both. Just pick one or two, and in 125 words, give me something that's really substantial. In the past, discussion posts have always usually been a drag, meaning the first part of it, being you, the student, always usually does decent on that because you give me what I want. Granted that, sometimes the punctuation and the spelling that could be a little lacking, or providing textual evidence. You may have to use quotations from your story to back up your points in your questions. This process, you should have learned a little bit about this in English 1101 because you had to do a research paper where you had to go out and find sources and quote and that type of stuff. So that really shouldn't be anything new. Now you're doing it with fiction. You can't just, give me blanket statements without really supporting your points from the actual text that you're reading. Do you have to quote a whole lot? No. Keep in mind it's only 125 words. So maybe one or two quotes per question would probably be suffice, because otherwise it's going to be longer than 125 words and you're using more quotes than original ideas from your head. So be selective on the stuff that you quote. Whatever you quote, make sure that it really relates to your answer or supports your claims in some ways. And after you post that, again, find a particular classmate and respond in 125 words to one of their questions or one of their answers. But just, don't say, yeah, I like your response. That's what I basically said. And I really feel like your response says a whole lot, and call it a day, because that's not really telling me anything. It's not really telling me what you liked, because you didn't really pinpoint what did you like. You just said you liked. So just be careful and make sure that your responses are going to be, with substance. They're not a whole bunch of fluff. They're not just basically patting somebody on the back and moving on just because I'm tired of doing the assignment. He basically wanted me to comment. I did make a comment. Yeah, you did, but the comment really wasn't beneficial to anything. It doesn't tell your reader anything. It doesn't tell me anything. And a lot of times it's just sort of a waste of time for you to even just post anything like that. So just be careful with these discussion posts. Because yes, I will look at the 125 word limit. That's easy enough done. Only thing I do is copy and paste your stuff into a Word, and it's going to calculate your words for me. I can see that with your post to your classmate. If you only answer the first two and you don't make a post, then you're going to lose half your grade, so that's not good either. So just be wary of that. And usually when I see a lot of these sort of artificial, what I call fat, fluffy comments, is folks, they wait until the very last minute, right? They realize they have a whole week. They wait until Sunday, 2 hours before it's due, and that's when I get a lot of these rushed. You can easily tell that either the person didn't read it, read the stories. They went to Cliff Notes and copied and pasted stuff off of eNotes or whatever and tried to change it around. A lot of that is easily detectable just by the wording and everything. And you can tell that it's rushed. So just be mindful of these. That's why I say you have a whole week. You don't have to spend every single day, but you can read one story one day. You can answer one question the next. You can read another story the next day. answer question 2 on the next day. That way you already did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, you did a little bit, but now, because what's going to happen usually with these is folks don't really start posting until Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and that's where the rush comes in. So I'm kind of hoping, even though I can't really force people to, start posting earlier, that, more of these come up before Saturday and Sunday. That way you're not feeling a pinch of trying to get it done because you did your part earlier. But it sucks sort of being the only student that's posted and finished, and now you're having to wait for everybody else to come and sort of do their job too. Because sometimes you forget to go back and actually do that last part because you posted on a Wednesday and here it is, it's still Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Most folks probably won't post until Saturday afternoon, Sunday morning. And you may have something else going on, and you just forget and you lose that part of your grade. So I would definitely double check after you post to see if there's somebody else is up there that's posted, so you can go ahead and knock it out. Then you won't have to worry about it if you're done. That's one good thing about with these smaller things. Yes, you do have a week to do them, but you don't have to wait until the deadline to get them done. You can, if you read the stories and stuff, that's why I try to open these folders up a couple of days ahead of time. So if you're finished with week 1 stuff, you can go ahead and get on week 2, and you can have a good bit of week 2 knocked out before we even start. It really just depends on how determined and how motivated you are from one week to the next. Now, granted, you got COVID, you're sick, something else is going on. I understand that could delay some stuff, but everybody has the same amount of time to be able to do these effectively if they, just use it wisely. And again, what you'd have to do is if you're not familiar with discussion posts on Blackboard, you just click here and you're going to have to create a thread to get started. So once you create the thread, I would probably give it a title. You can say discussion post, or you can give your name and then, say discussion post, and then just type your answers in the box. You can upload it if you want to type your answers as a Microsoft Word file. There's a benefit for using Microsoft Word because it has the spell and the grammar check on there. That would probably eliminate some of your errors. You can send me drafts of those particular questions if you want me to look at them to make sure you're going on the right path, or if your grammar and spelling's correctly, or if you cited the quotations from that short story correctly, right, with the in-text citation and what they consider parenthetical, right? After a quote, just for example here, let's say you're quoting X, Y, and Z. You want to make sure that you have parentheses, author's last name, and then a page number. Now, with most of these works, you should have a page number somewhere. Even though it is electronic, there should be a page number. And then after that, you just hit submit. And then it's basically a waiting game, waiting on another student to submit their two so you can go back and respond to them. But I'll double check to see about the page numbers real quick here. But again, just know when you click on that, you're not going to be able to do anything until you create a thread. You won't be able to post. You won't be able to see anybody else that's post until that happens. Some folks forget to do that, or I get a lot of emails. How do I do the discussion post? And I think I actually put that in the instructions. You're going to have to create a thread. Yeah, you will have to create a thread to begin assignments. So let's see. Desiree Baby, let's see if there's any page numbers. There's no page numbers really for this one. So what I would suggest that you use is the paragraph numbers. Well, there's no paragraph numbers. That was footnotes. So what you would do there is just put in parentheses Chopin. If you wanted to count your own paragraphs, you can put PAR, period, and then the paragraph. That could work. But because there's no page numbers in this particular one, you're just going to have to use parentheses and Chopin. Let me see if the Faulkner piece may be the same way too. And I may just have to send out a mass email letting folks know that, if for those that can't join us or watch the video. Yeah, this one does have page numbers, and you're going to go by the page numbers that are provided in the actual text. So like this one, the first page would be 1066. So I would use the page numbers here because they are provided. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And for question posts, like, do you want us to answer like one question, submit it, and then answer the next question to submit it, or would you rather them be together, or how?
It'd probably be easier to do, you can do it either way, but it'd probably be easier to do them both. That way they're both together and you won't have to worry about them.
Yes, sir.
As it relates to your particular questions. I mean, you should be able to go in there and do one now, and then if you wanted to come back tomorrow and just put number 2, you should be able to go back and post again. It's gonna layer it. Instead of all being in one little spot, you're going to have post 1, and then below it's going to be post 2. So it's really up to you. As long as we can read it, that's going to be your choice. Most folks usually like to, answer both of them pretty much at the same time, so they're not, leaving something off or forgetting to answer number 2, because they're thinking, oh, I did number 1, and then they forget to do number 2, and then that becomes a problem when it comes to the grade. But again, that's up to you, however you want to approach it.
Yes, sir.
Exam 1 and paper 1. Let me see. I know our time is running kind of short here, but we will talk a little bit about. Let me see if I can bring that up. Let me see if I can share something else. Hold on. Let's see if it'll let me share it. Let's see if I can put this over here. Yeah, I will. Okay. So I give you some information about the first exam. And again, it's going to be sort of set up like your quiz and stuff like that as it relates to it. It's going to be on Blackboard. It's going to be password sensitive, meaning before, like a week or so before the exam actually happens, I'm going to email everybody the password, and I'll probably actually put it on the little slot to where the exam is. So you have to have that password to be able to get in to take the exam. Otherwise, it's not going to let you take it. So the exam is going to be 75 minutes. It's basically going to be a quote passage identification with a series of questions. So between now and the 26th, because the 26th is when the exam is actually going to be due, we're going to, we usually read at least 2 stories each week. So week 1, week 2, week 3. So if you look at it that way, 5 weeks times 2, there's 10 stories. So out of those 10 stories, I'm going to be selective because obviously with 75 minutes, I can't pull. I mean, I guess I could, but I'm not going to do it just because it's going to be too nerve-wracking on your part and really nerve-wracking on mine when it comes to grading, because I got 2 sections of this class. So I'm going to be selective with the quotations that I choose. It will cover the stories that we've read. So there again, that's where you might want to go back and, as it gets closer, maybe reread some of these. If you have time, take your own notes on some of these, because basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a passage, and I give you sort of an example of how it's going to look. I give you a quotation or a passage from one of the stories that we've read, and then from that passage, there's going to be A through E. So you have to answer each one of these questions to get full credits. Partial credit possibly could be given depending on how it looks. If I can give partial credit, I generally do. If it's completely wrong, then you won't get any credit. If it's completely right, obviously you do get the credit. But I give you, right, who is the author, what is the title of the work, what is the date or historical period when this work was published, what is the context, who is speaking to whom, what is the meaning and significance. So you have those 5 questions, and this is sort of how you would want to answer those 5 questions. Some of them are going to be really short, not really a complete thought. But then when you get down to about letters C, D, and E, you probably have to write a little bit more. And I usually say a sentence, 1 sentence to 3 sentences, something like that. But it's doable. And you're really only going to have to, you're going to have a choice. Like I think I tell you to pick 5 or pick 6 or whatever the case may be. And you have to answer on those that you choose. And I give you sort of percentage here. So each one of those A through E questions is basically worth 3.33 points. Collectively, each one of these passages, all 5 questions answered correctly, is going to be worth nearly 17 points. So that's how the actual exam will be set up. So the same instructions here. Again, you're going to have, you want to pick 6 quotes and answer on those 6 quotes. So if you kept up with reading and you proofread and you edit your answers, this really shouldn't be that, I hope, that big of a challenge. If you don't keep up with the reading and you don't sort of prepare for it, then it probably will be problematic, because this is one of those, it is a sort of a big chunk of your grade. So you want to kind of keep that in mind. Again, be careful because you're only going to have 75 minutes. And like I said, there's really no way I can monitor this, whether you're cheating or not. There are certain ways, right? I mean, if you're using eNotes or SparkNotes and you're basically just copying and paste, and I can find that really easily online, then, I mean, you're just going to get a 0 on the exam. So I'm hoping, everybody's really taking each week seriously as it relates to the reading, taking their own notes, understanding what they need to understand, asking me questions, sending me emails, that type stuff. Because you're really not going to have a lot of time, with 75 minutes, and you got 6 of these that you got to answer, to be surfing the web for answers. Because if you do, your time's going to run out. And this is one of those things, I can't reset it, pause it, redo it. Once you start it, you have 75 minutes to finish. You can take bathroom breaks, you can take breaks, you can go get something to eat, but just keep in mind your time is ticking. So when 75 minutes runs out, that's it. You're not going to have a do-over. There's no way I can reset it, that type deal. I would make sure that you save, because there's going to be a place on the actual exam where you can save your questions. I would save often, because again, if you don't save and your time runs out, it's just going to, submit blank documents or blank questions or answers to questions, and it's just going to grade it automatically as a 0 because there's nothing there to grade. And a 0 will hurt, as I discussed in some of the week 1 videos. Each 0 that you rack up basically brings you down 20 points overall grade. So you want to be, leery of that. Any questions with the exam?
No, sir.
Okay, let's see. I will bring up a little bit about this paper. I did send some information about the paper, email over the weekend. I give you sort of an example paper to look at. I would definitely, go back and look at that email. This is basically going to be due the Sunday before you take your first exam. And I give you sort of the guidelines. You want to double space, use MLA, either 8 or 9. I know we're going into 9 soon, but 8 or 9, 8 still works, but if 9 is not that much different, honestly. Use Times New Roman 12 as your font. Make sure that you're double spacing. It needs to be either 1,000 words or at least 4 pages with a works cited. So a lot of folks get sort of caught up on the word count and the paper length. So if you have 4 pages and you said everything that you needed to say, then stop. Just make sure that your works cited page is page 5. If you get to, let's say, the end of page 3 and you're at 1,000 words, well, again, if you said everything that you had to say and you can't say anything any longer, again, just stop and make sure that your works cited page is on page 4. If you get to the end of page 3, though, and you only have 600 words, then you need to go at least another page because you didn't really say everything that you needed to say with 600 words. There will be a Dropbox for this. It will be due on Sunday, September 19th by 11:59. Now, as I said in the email, and that email that has that sample, I basically give you a model student paper that a student wrote for me a semester or so ago. I just changed the date and stuff around it, but it's basically what you're going to have to do for this assignment. If you follow the guidelines and look at the margin notes that I put in there, even though the topic is a little bit different, meaning the story is different, you should have a good suggestion about how to go about, tackling your own essay here. And between now and, let's say the 17th of September, you can send me as many drafts of that particular essay as you want. You can send Smart Thinking as many drafts of that particular essay as you want. And basically what you're doing is you're doing a close reading of one of those, an important passage that you find that it's important in one of the short stories. You get to choose the passage. You get to choose the short story. It has to be one of the ones that we've read over the 10 weeks. Or up at that point, it'd probably be one of the 8 because we're basically, I think this is going to be due week 4. So, make sure that your quotation or your passage is about 10 to 20 lines or at least one short paragraph, about 120 words as it relates. Because again, I don't have that email with me and I have to go back to my inbox. But if you looked at an email, I show you how to set it up. I probably have another video about really talking about the paper. If not by the end of this week, definitely next week. But if you study that Model A essay, you won't go wrong. Because what I try to do with each one of these papers is I try to give you a quality paper. I'm not going to give you anything that's less than a 90. So the work that I give you is generally by previous students who made an A, made a 90 or higher on it. So you can kind of, look and learn and read and see what they did and sort of mimic, even though the story or your particular, writing style is going to be different. At least you can kind of look to see how they quote short stories, how they quote poetry, how to quote drama, that type of stuff. Look at the, overall organization and development of the whole thing. But again, we will talk a little bit more about that in the week and weeks to come because, today's the 31st. So if you look, the 19th is right here. So a lot of folks say, well, I got plenty of time. Yes, you do. But again, if you waited until the last minute to do the quizzes or the discussion post, if you wait till the last minute to do this paper, chances are I'm not going to have time to look at it and make sure you're going in the right track. And this, again, is a big chunk of your grade. I do the papers and the tests because I know some folks can write papers really well and they just don't test well. So at least there's that balance. At least you have a good grade on, we hope, on one of those two things. And vice versa. Some folks test well and they just don't write papers well. Because some folks just really structure this class. They could just, give you all papers. And if you're not really an essay writer, then you're sort of doomed. unless you really get help and, spend a lot of time with a tutor or something. So that's why I give multiple chances to really help your grade. That's why we have something due every Sunday in case, let's say, you don't do so well on essay one or paper or exam one. At least maybe if you did well on the previous 3 weeks assignments, that will sort of balance your grade up, meaning you're not failing really bad. Your grade may be low, but it's still sort of, achievable that you can pull it out. And plus we need something to have, verification of attendance. If I don't have assignments sort of due every Sunday, then I'm gonna have folks that are gonna just log in when stuff is due and they're gonna check out and not know what's going on. And then when something is due, they're gonna freak out because they haven't been keeping up all along. So yeah, I mean, online courses, I will tell you, if you had them before in the past, some folks like them because they're able to get in the groove and follow their pattern. Whatever worked for them before in the past works for them here. Some folks don't necessarily like them just because they are fast paced and there's usually something new weekly. So if you're a procrastinator, online courses are probably not going to be your best friend moving forward. But again, that's why I give everybody 7 days to sort of work a little bit. And then every Thursday I open the previous week or the following week's folder, not to really make people anxious, but I give them an extra 3 or 4 days if they want to go ahead and jump ahead, especially if they got something pressing due the following week. They can go ahead and move ahead. For me, they don't have to wait until we get to week 3 or week 4. I hope that's beneficial for some folks, especially if you got kids or multiple classes or you work full time. Sometimes getting ahead is sort of how you live your life because you just don't know what kind of problems or situations are going to, happen the following week, and it may bog you down where you can't get stuck. I always go by use your time wisely and work smarter, not harder. If you can work smarter, not harder, then any online course that you ever take won't be a drag. If you work harder than smarter, then you're always going to have obstacles and roadblocks in your way, and it's going to be emotionally draining. It's going to be depressing at times. It's just going to be a drag. That's why I wouldn't wait, especially when it comes to like sending me drafts and stuff. I wouldn't wait until September 17th to send me a draft. Because chances are I may or may not be able to get it back before you have to turn it in 2 days later. I would try to send drafts at least a week ahead of time, if nothing else. So instead of maybe the 17th, start giving me drafts on the 11th or the 12th. That way we have enough time. If you do run into a problem, we can resolve it hopefully fairly quickly, get you back in track so your grade goes up and doesn't go down. And the same thing with smart thinking. I wouldn't necessarily wait until 2 days before it's due because sometimes it takes them 2 days just to get any paper back, depending on how many people are on staff. And I don't even know if they really work too much on the weekends. I'm thinking they do, but because of COVID and stuff, they may be short-staffed and their hours may change because they cater to other colleges too. They don't just cater to us. But that's definitely a tool that I would use. Anything that's dealing with writing, if you're taking math, smart thinking is you can find a tutor there that will help you with math. Anything that we offer as a class here, generally you're going to find a tutor on smart thinking, and it's free. So you don't have to go out and pay $30 an hour for somebody to look at your paper when you can have somebody look at it for free. Same thing with me. That's what I'm here for. Is to look at your drafts. I want you to pass this class the first time around. I don't really want to see anybody having to come back through and take this class over. It's just really, it's kind of pointless unless there's just something dramatic going on in your life. Everybody should be able to do really well in this class and move on. That's my hope. Because it drags you down from graduation, right? Every class that you drop or you fail is basically putting 4 months tacked on to your graduation date because you're going to have to retake it, whether you stay here or if you go to Georgia Southern. I mean, English 1101 and 1102 are basically 2 classes you have to take no matter what your major is. So same thing with college algebra. I know there's a lot of folks that drop out of college algebra 3 or 4 times, and they're supposed to graduate in 2 years. And now, since they dropped that class, they're going to be graduating in 6 years because it just keeps adding more weeks back onto their graduation date now. So just be wary of that. Do we have any other questions? I know our time's over with, and I need to try to eat lunch before my next class.
No, sir, I'm good.
Okay. Just let me know if I can help you in any other way. I hope you get over the whole deal with COVID.
Thank you.
And just email me if you have any questions, if you need any help with anything.
Yes, sir.
Have a good week.
You too.
Thanks.